Hey there, Wanderer. I'm still in a hat mood from the weekend, so I'm gonna grab my. I'm gonna grab Thaton's hat and put it on. But I've been wanting to respond to that depression video that you made, and it's been on my mind. And a week went by, I watched it again, and I still feel the same. Like I want to respond, you know. So I'm gonna do that. But I'm gonna get my hat because it's been a rough weekend. Okay. So this is Thaton's hat, and no, with a lisp, Thaton. This is Thaton's hat. It was a high school friend of mine, and my first love, 14, so, way back. And he died in, was it 2017? Yeah, late 2017, before he was able to turn 50, in a fire, actually. But alcohol was involved and insomnia, and he was, in a basement suite that was so full of... Anyway, the hat. The hat, because I was the one who went in to clean out the apartment to see if there was anything left, right? Artwork, because he was incredible. And why? Because nobody else would do it. So his mom asked me, are you willing to do it? None of the friends, the friend a block away wouldn't, couldn't come and stand outside. And it was quite below freezing, and it was January, and it was dark in there. I had to go in with a flashlight. I think I might have had a headlamp on. I got covered in soot. It was black in there. Anyway, out of the entire apartment, I managed to salvage 2 boxes of things, and also 2 guitars were okay. Of the 2 boxes, Thaton was an incredible archivist and sentimental scrapbooker type, so he had a couple of scrapbooks, like quite thick ones, and there was one that I managed to salvage that could be dry. Pages were hanging, drying out, and some of it was okay. But anyway, my point is that I was the only one that could go in there. And it sounds to me as if we're built similarly, in that we are sensitive as all fuck. Almost as if we've been dropped on this. It's like the metaphor I've used before is that it's like being dropped on a planet in outer space without the spacesuit. And that's how I feel sometimes about being here on Earth, is like, I'm so sensitive. And life is what it is. And so I was really feeling that in what you were saying about, I just feel like I get that part about, you were saying about how, your heart going cold, or you were worried it was going to go cold. Sadly, it won't, hun. Because you're not built that way. But I've had that moment. I'm not trying to dismiss, it's just that I have felt that. And what I found over time, at least for me, is that it doesn't work as much as I've tried. It just doesn't work. And, but I have adapted to this almost disability. Not that it's a disability, because it's actually an amazing thing to be built this way. And I wouldn't want to change that for anything, I marvel, over people that can go through things like somebody dying, and they just go back to work after 3 days, and they never say a word about it. And I don't understand that. I sometimes admire that. But, and then, for example, I was a nurse, and there was people, and I worked in the intensive care for a while, like, how many years? 3 or 4? Anyway, there were people that absolutely were able to thrive on the adrenaline of the emergency, right? And I had one nurse say to me, "It's like a game, Carol. If you save the life, you win the game." And I do, she was a decent person. I think it was a coping mechanism. It was one I was never able to develop. For me, when something went wrong, I'm doing the actions that I have to do, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to tell his wife, This is, I was unable to deal with it. It's a good thing, and it's a curse, so it's great that there's adrenaline junkies, and this is not to judge people that are more sensitive like ourselves, nor that type, because everyone is needed in, if you're going to have a cardiac arrest, you want an adrenaline junkie. You don't want somebody who's going to be like, oh my God, and you don't necessarily even want someone like myself whose hands are going to be so shaky that they can't give you the injection you're going to need. Although I did manage to do it. I had a technique, to get into the IV, right? I would balance my hand on my other wrist, and but, and eventually I got almost this PTSD from being there. I couldn't do it anymore. So I just wanted to say something about, the heart going cold in this world, and about how love doesn't come back. And people don't always have the ability or the wherewithal to even understand what it means to show up, or to care enough to develop it. And I think that's where our scrutiny has to come in, is, it's not to go cold, and not to be give up, but to become a little more careful about who you love. I'm just learning this. I'm 55, right? Like, old lady. So I'm just learning, and I've been actively working on giving more of a damn about myself and valuing what I'm able to bring to the table now for a few years, probably 5, definitely since I turned 50, at least 5 years. So in 2020, 5 years ago, I embarked on this, RV lifestyle, and my intent was to sell the house that I had, buy an RV and hit the road and travel. But, when the time came, it was COVID. I couldn't go anywhere. I mean, I couldn't cross the border. It was just a nightmare. It was lockdowns and everything else. And so I did buy the RV. I did end up selling my house that much later because of the lockdown. So I planned to sell in like April and be on the road for the summer. Instead, it was end of November before I was out of the house. Just that's the way it all panned out with the market and just everything. All the people that I had to consider getting out and on the road. So I flew out to BC. Oh no, I didn't. So I drove out to BC. Did I drive? I can't remember how I got here. That's weird. Anyway, December of 2020, I picked up the Majestic, and it was supposed to be a winter thing, and then back to Ontario for the off-grid property in the summer. Shit happened. And, my partner's parents were failing, and I stayed. Instead of coming out here, I stayed a whole winter assisting in looking after them. I was paid around the minimum wage and doing kind of 72-hour shifts, which was absolutely great until about 3 months in, where there was no more sleeping. So it was like 72 hours. So I've been doing this for a while, and I actually had a really great in one sense, because it gave me a great vision of what I might want from life, from a relationship. But yeah, it went very poorly. It ended. It was a bit of a mind fuck. The whole point is that a friend of mine, who I had formerly dated for a little while, a few months, said to me, took the time, and I really appreciate this, to give me a pep talk after my most recent breakup. Let's see if I can get through this without getting it all choked up. But this in particular really was something that came to mind watching your video about the universe, about what's coming back to you, about everything that you're showing up and giving, which is a hell of a lot, I can tell. So, what he said to me is, Carol, it seems to me that you haven't felt entirely well for the last few years. And that was true because, you know, Thetan, the fire, I lost 2 friends tragically, blah, 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 you know, hadn't felt entirely well. It strikes me that you haven't felt entirely well over the last few years. And he said, you bring so much love and you give so much love to those around you. He said, what I think you need to do is turn at least some of that back into yourself. I thought I had a video about this, but I couldn't find it. He said, turn some of that love back towards yourself and allow yourself to get better. And he says, as you get better, you will attract better into your life. And then he went on to say, which was also super valuable, you really need to get clear on how to assess worthiness in others. Those that are worthy of you, worthy of what you're bringing to the table. This, I'm trying to translate it into like, worthy of the amount of energy and time and caring and commitment that you bring to the table. Get really more clear on who is worthy of that, i.e., bringing a similar amount of time and energy and commitment to the table. He said to me, if a man does not feel worthy of you, eventually he will turn that around against you. And he will say, what the hell is wrong with her that she likes me or cares about me? I was like, wow, okay. Wow. I mean, I didn't have a great overall outcome with him dating. But I almost feel like the entire reason that I even met him, and it was very serendipity weird, you know, very random and very easily could have never met. I feel like that's the whole reason, because it's a life lesson that I needed to hear at that time, and it really began a whole big change for me about it's true. And as I was trying to contemplate this, I was like, oh, what is this turning the love in on yourself, right? Because I'm like, oh, I love myself. Oh, I love myself so much. No. What the fuck is that? I don't know what that means. And then I started to think about, how he is, and I see, oh, okay, he buys decent quality food, he tries to get enough rest, he tries to get exercise, he walks the dog every day, he goes to the gym 3 times a week, he goes swimming. And I thought, you know what? I don't really understand this whole I love myself thing. So, but self-care. So every time that I make a good decision or a healthier decision, or how about a less bad decision, that's loving myself. Oh my God. Okay. That's how I'm going to define it, because that's the way my brain works. I don't understand the, this, maybe from there, though, I began to understand respect. I began to value effort. Effort, intention, not outcome, because sometimes we screw up. Sometimes, but where are you coming from when you screw up? Do you feel bad about screwing up? I mean, when you hurt somebody else, do you feel bad about it? Or are you thrilled about it? You know, obviously you're not that type of person, but that whole concept of being worthy, to me, started to translate into the effort that you bring to the table and the genuine nature of how genuine are you? How hard do you try to show up decently? I think love is an action word. Love is a verb. Love is what you do. I mean, it's nice to say it, but it's what you do. It's how you treat people. It's how you intend, as well as how you act. It's how you intend. And now, okay, so that's, I could probably go on a little bit longer, but I don't know if I think you get the point, or you kind of get where I'm going with that. But the other point I wanted to make is I have been caregiver for friends and family as they are transitioning out of this world. And, okay. So in terms of being in a funk and getting out of a funk, each loss, I think, has its own time frame and its own unique. I do think it's possible to learn how to grieve, so that, you know, as it continues to happen, that we have kind of we know at least a kind of remote framework for how it works, and that we learn how to live with it, live with grief, cope with grief. But in terms of caregiving someone in their final months, weeks, and days, there's just one thing I wanted to say in support of you, is that this is not something you can just snap out of, because, okay, as an RVer, as a vehicle dweller, you know, van lifer, Jeep dweller, you know a fair bit about the usage of battery power, right? And you probably know that a battery can only be drained so far before it needs to be recharged. And if you don't recharge the battery, if you drain it too far, it never fully will recharge, right? It'll only recharge to here, where it normally, before it was up there. I think we're like that. And especially in caregiving someone who's transitioning out of the world, that's a big deal. I've done it. I've done it. A lot, actually. And I was, like, between my mom and my dad, it was only just over a year. Was it a year and a half? I was not able to be fully present with my father as much as I would have liked, because I wasn't coping. I took more walks I had panic attacks. I couldn't take the elevator. I had to take the stairs. Like I was like deeply depressed after he passed. Hey, and then some years later, there was a friend who had cancer, and I came to visit him. You know, I think probably twice a week or so. But I couldn't be that full-time, the vigil, holding vigil. I could not do that. And, I mean, since then, I had another friend who was in the hospital for a really long time with something that is potentially you can recover from. And there was, you know, family members, there was friends that were there every day. I could not do that because my internal battery was discharged too far and therefore had some damage that it could never fully recharge. And so all I'm saying is, you know, keep in mind it's a big deal. Keep in mind that recovering from this is it's not a something to snap out of quickly. And depending how close you were to that person, depending how much you gave, you may get back to 97%, you know. Maybe you won't get back to 100. Maybe you'll get back to 97 or wherever you were. You understand. I know you know what I'm saying. But just to be, you know, gentle with yourself. To understand, like, that these things can take a lot of time. And to just be kind of loving and understanding and gentle of yourself as much as you can. That you're in a process of grieving. And every grief with every loss is slightly different. And just, you know, value that you're different than the vast majority of people, that you're willing to show up and look after a friend who's dying. That 99% of the people are like not signing up for that. So you're already knowing that you're in a category that is rare. And just honor that you're someone who's able to do that. It doesn't mean you have to do it every time, because, you know, we're not built to be like, hey, there's only so many beatings the soul can withstand, you know. Yeah. I have a friend who's probably in the last few months, I don't think he'll last more than a few months, and I can be around somewhat, but I can't, I'm not going to be able to be that person who camps out for 2 weeks near the end. I can't, and I honestly am okay with the fact that I can't. I have, you know, it would discharge my life battery beyond which that I would be able to still look after myself and my basic responsibilities, my dogs. You know, I have a daughter, I have a son, I have a job. I have a 9-to-5 actually now, for almost a year. So, anyway, dear, I hope, you know, one of these meet and greets, like I hope next year maybe to have the money and the ability to get down to one of these meet and greet things. For now, I'm in Colombia. And fortunately, it's now above freezing. And anyway, I was just really, compelled to respond to what you said. And yeah, you're right. People out here do care. And I don't think you could change your nature. I've felt that way, like, oh, I need to learn how to be more. You can learn to be more avoidant. That doesn't mean you're less sensitive. That doesn't mean that you'll be cold, right? But you can learn to be more self-protective. And I would hate to think, like my partner, that experiencing a hurt or a thing is like, I'll never listen to blah, 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 blah. And it's this wide swath, How about I will be very choosy about who I let myself love. And I've had to do that even with my partner, because he says he wants to spend his life with me. But he said, I'm only going to go 80% in. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I said, the only way I can be 80% in is if I don't live with you and I don't, like, center my life around you. Like, yeah. Anyway, I was like, no. I can't move away somewhere with you and start a life if you're not all in, right? Because I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to compartmentalize or guard, or I was born without it. I don't have it. Anyway, dear, hey, Wanderer, Sarah, Wanderer, I hope you're having a good night. And I hope that you see this. Maybe I'll write you and say, I'm making a video. What should I call it? Hey, Wanderer. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Good night. And I wish you all the best. Okay, take care.